Today's revelation that Yandy Smith, the iconic personality in love and hip-hop, had been in a horrific car accident and was struggling for her life shook the globe to its core. According to reports, Yandy's condition is so poor that doctors think she has little chance of surviving. What's worse is that her closest friends and family members were left in a state of chaos following the incident. No one expected the bombshell, yet the man who promised to always be at her side was seen crying as he rushed to the hospital. Over the next few hours, revelations emerged. Could there have been more to the story, or was this just an unfortunate accident? What sinister secrets and resentful rivalries might have led to this unexpected development? Fans of Yandy are in disbelief. The drama surrounding her crash is far from over, and her family is in ruins. Hold on tight as we reveal the story that nobody anticipated, because things are about to change in the case of Yandy Smith. The horrific information that emerged on social media feeds with an intensity no one could have predicted at the time will astound you. Initially, there were just vague reports of Yandy being critically injured in a collision on Beaufort Highway. But when the facts became clear, the horrifying reality emerged. Yandy, the daring and courageous hip-hop and love queen, was lying in a hospital bed, battling for her life. Fans all throughout the world were left reeling and unsure of what to believe because it was a nightmare that no one could have seen. The gravity of the situation became apparent, and it only appeared to become worse by the hour. Rush hour was when the collision occurred. The real shocker came when medics disclosed the entire nature of Yandy's injuries. She was unconscious with several fractures and significant brain damage, but it was too late for rescue services to come. Mez, her husband, got the call that no spouse ever hopes to receive. According to witnesses, her vehicle was speeding dangerously before it swerved off the road and struck a concrete barrier. There came the horrible thud of metal striking cement, followed by the screaming sound of tires. Might have assisted him in getting ready for what was going to happen to him. Fearing the worst, his mind racing, he rushed immediately to the hospital. Her health wasn't the only issue. Their relationship had become extremely strained due to months of tension and unsolved disputes. Mendeecees, who had been battling his problems with his history and his position in Yandy's world, was thrust into a situation that was more overwhelming than any drama he had ever seen on a reality show. The cold environment he encountered at the hospital only served to heighten the severity of the problem. With a racing heart, MC pondered how they had arrived at this point. Was it fate, or was there a darker force at play? Was there anyone who wished to witness YY's suffering at home? The physicians were working around the clock to stabilize her, and the situation was equally tense. No one could have prepared him for the sight of Yandy's face bloated and battered, her body attached to machinery. The guy who had stood with Yandy through thick and thin, assisting her in creating her empire, was now in danger of losing everything. As soon as she came, Yandy's mother, a strong lady with strong beliefs of her own, made her presence known. But rather than providing solace, she exacerbated the tension that was already building. She was clearly resentful of Mendeecees, and she didn't waste any time in accusing him of failing to support her when it counted most, blaming him, and doubting his involvement in Yandy's life. Although close friends hurried to her side right away, there was disagreement among them, and long-simmering family dynamics began to erupt in full force. "You're crying like it's your fault while she's fighting for her life." The charges were like daggers, piercing the air like sharp blades, and her mother's voice was cold and full of scorn when she snapped. In addition to the fact that Devin, Yandy's brother, was equally unsupportive, the tension between him and Yandy's mother reached a boiling point. Devin glared at him from the other side of the room and snarled, "Don't think you're going to play the victim here. She's been putting up with your nonsense for years, and now this happens." Yandy Smith's fans were devastated by the news as it spread on social media. But as is often the case in the world of celebrities, conspiracy theories were rampant, with some speculating that Yandy's accident was not an accident, but rather that there was foul play. The man felt trapped, unable to escape the weight of the judgment being thrown at him from all sides. All he wanted was to be with his wife, to hold her hand, and to reassure her that everything would be okay, but the accusations and mistrust made that almost impossible. But why would Yandy do that? What was so bad that Yandy would risk her life in such a reckless manner? Could it be that Mendeecees isn't the supportive husband we thought he was? Was he pushing Yandy too hard? The rumors circulated theories, each more scandalous than the last one that went viral. One even claimed that Yandy had been intentionally speeding in an attempt to escape from something or someone. When MC sat by Yandy's bedside, his thumb buzzing with a message that would change everything, a shocking twist turned everything upside down. Fans were split between defending their favorite star and speculating about the breaks in her relationship that might have caused this disaster. The fans' words, which were the result of all their unresolved issues, only served to fuel the fire and make the already heartbreaking situation much darker and more complicated. His blood ran cold when he read the message, which said that the sender knew the truth about the crash and that a third party involved had a personal grudge against Yandy. The thought that Yandy might have been singled out for intentional harm made him question why someone would want to harm her in that way, and the future appeared even more uncertain than it had been before. There was more to the crash than anyone was willing to acknowledge, and the drama unfolding in the waiting room was further dividing Yandy's family, already divided by long-standing tensions, while Mesh struggled to maintain composure as the message he had just received lingered in his mind. And as he sat in the sterile hospital room, the weight of the situation began to hit him harder than ever before. Could it be true that someone was actually out to get Yandy? This was the final straw for Devin, Yandy's brother, who had taken charge of the situation and insisted that they make decisions for Yandy's care. Why are we even waiting for him to make decisions? He's been nothing more than a liability in Yandy's life. Look at where we are now, where she's fighting for her life, and he's been absent when she most needed him. He paced back and forth in the waiting room, his rage boiling. You think you can just walk in here like the hero? You can't even keep her safe from your past, and now look at her on the verge of death. Yandy's mother, as usual, wasn't afraid to express her displeasure with the situation. She had never trusted me, and this moment gave her the ammunition she needed to voice her concerns. She hissed, glaring at M's tension, which crackled in the air like static electricity, and M couldn't escape the barrage of judgment in his every word. I know what's going on, Tasha whispered urgently, her voice shaking, and men leaned in eagerly to hear. But before he could defend himself, Yandy's best friend Tasha rushed into the waiting room, her face pale and her eyes wide with fear, ignoring everyone else in the room. The accusations felt like daggers to his heart, and he stood frozen, unsure of how to respond. What was even more shocking was the sense of loneliness he felt when he needed his family to support him. What are you talking about? He questioned in a strained voice. Tasha looked around the room anxiously, but no one was listening. I know who did this, she replied, her words hanging in the air like a bombshell ready to explode. It wasn't an accident because Ms. Yandy was targeted. The revelation sent a chill down his spine, and he grabbed her arm in desperation to find out more. I have to find out who did this. I need answers, he said through gritted teeth, his voice full of determination. As Tasha and Menz exchanged whispers, the rest of the family continued their emotional outing, and Yandy's mother, now more enraged than ever, turned to M's voice. He knew her like the back of his hand, and they had been through a lot together, but even he couldn't deny that she had made enemies over the years. I have to find out who did this. I need answers. We don't need you here. You're just another reminder of her mistakes. Mice had had enough. I'm the one here by her side, and I'll be the one who will be there when she wakes up. If she wakes up. The emotion in his voice was raw, and the family members fell silent for a moment, considering what he had said. Dripping with venom, don't think you can just walk in here and act like you're going to save her. You failed her time and time again, and now you think you're going to be the one to get her through this. She spat, glaring at him with all the strength she had been holding onto for years. The family's divisions were more pronounced than ever before, and the walls were closing in on DC as he attempted to hold onto his position. Yandy's mother, who had always disapproved of him, now stood as an impenetrable barrier between him and the woman he loved. The pressure was mounting, and the tension in the room only increased with every minute that passed. DC was helpless to stop the message from Tasha, but he couldn't help but wonder if there was someone from Yandy's past who had truly intended to see her destroyed and who could have planned such a cunning and vicious. But even as he set out to find answers, the family drama reached New York. Yandy's rise to fame had not been easy. She had fought against jealousy, betrayal, and ruthless competition to get to where she was. She had made enemies, some of whom were extremely dangerous, but who would have gone so far as to intentionally harm her. The pieces were starting to fit together, and Mies knew he needed to dig deeper. Time was running out, and if Yandy had any chance of surviving, he needed to uncover the truth. You think you know everything about her. You think you know what's best for her. Well, I'd have a secret of my own, miss. One that you won't believe. Yandy's mother, still incensed, said, leaning in closer, her voice barely above a whisper, as Mendeecees' mind was racing with questions. You really think you can solve all of this, Mrs.? You don't know enough about Yandy, and you don't know enough about the things she has concealed from everyone. His mother-in-law's remarks dispelled his long-held belief that he and Yandy were inseparable and that they shared everything. He was shocked to learn that he had no idea what secrets Yandy had been hiding. Tell me what you mean, he insisted, his voice trembling with a mix of desperation and rage. Yandy's mother never shied away from making her presence known. What are you talking about? She asked. He had always been aware of Yandy's troubled history, but he never thought it would return to haunt her so severely. Was it someone from her past who would intentionally harm her, or was the automobile accident only an accident? He spoke with a voice that said, "You think her life has been all rainbows and butterflies, that she hasn't made mistakes? I'm telling you, Yandy has a dark past, things that would destroy everything you think you know about her, and someone out there is using that past against her." Despite the devastating reality, he was unable to give up. Who is it now? He raised in exasperation as he felt the walls closing in on him and inquired in a voice that was almost audible. With a heavy sigh, Yandy's mother revealed the terrible reality, clearly conflicted between wanting to protect her daughter and telling her, "You believe you can manage it, but in reality, someone close to us, someone from Yandy's past, has been planning an attack on her for years, and they've now succeeded." "It's Tasha," Yandy's mother replied, her voice shaking with the weight of her words as she glanced around the room to make sure no one else was listening. He was taken aback by the name. Tasha was his wife's closest friend and the person he had trusted the most. Is she really there? His head reeled as the world around him seemed to disintegrate, and the shock was so great that he was momentarily unable to speak. He shook his head, muttering, "That's impossible," as he couldn't believe Tasha would ever do that. "I'm familiar with her, and I've witnessed her gaze on Yandy. She's messed up now, but the envy and hatred have been boiling beneath the surface for years, waiting for the ideal moment to strike." He couldn't comprehend the facts and was shocked. Their lives had always included Tasha, who had been there for them no matter what. How could this have happened because of her? He was aware that something wasn't quite right as the parts began to fit together. Her peculiar actions had been He was thinking about the potential that Yandy's condition was caused by Tasha, the person he had trusted the most, as he moved down the hallway. The treachery was too great to fathom. When he reached Yandy's room, he saw her lying unconscious, her face white, her body attached to devices that beeped in time. His head racing with rage, he walked out of the waiting room, his pulse hammering in his chest. To finally get to the bottom of this, he wanted answers and had to face Tasha. For a minute, his emotions were conflicted. He wanted to protect her from the world that had hurt her so many times, but he was also furious that someone in their inner circle had been plotting an attack on her all along. Realizing that he couldn't afford to spend any more time, the truth had to be exposed. He inhaled deeply to get ready for the confrontation. He turned and walked straight out of the room toward Tasha's place. His heart was pounding as he knocked on the door, wondering if she would admit to the treachery or if she would keep playing the victim. The intensity of his eyes startled Tasha when she opened the door. This was the first time she had ever seen him like this. "What are you looking for?" Trying not to show her uncertainty in her voice, she inquired. "I must be told the truth." Mendeecees' voice was steady and low. "Did Yandy's accident involve you in any way?" Tasha's face briefly flashed with emotion, fear, remorse, and a darker hue that I couldn't quite identify. Then, with a voice hardly audible above a whisper, she spoke. Yes, she uttered the word, which hung in the air like a death sentence, and the weight of her feelings left her motionless. Mendeecees couldn't believe what they were hearing, and the confession was like a kick to the belly. With tears in her eyes, Tasha looked aside and cried, "Why would you do this to me?" Her voice broke as she continued, "I never wanted it to go this far, but I was overcome with jealousy and hatred. Mendeecees had everything I could possibly want, and I couldn't tolerate it. I never anticipated it would come to this, but I felt that if I could defeat her even a bit, I would at last feel in control of my life once more." The truth had finally been revealed, but at a terrible cost, and men in Washington, D.C. realized that nothing would ever be the same after this. The harm was already done, he thought as he gazed at Tasha. Yandy's life was in shambles, and the one she had trusted most had betrayed her. What would come next? Would she live? Would she no longer be married to men? There was nothing he could do to stop the world from falling apart around him. Whether DC lives or dies is a matter of time, but one thing is for sure, their lives will never be the same. As this tragic and startling tale draws to a close, it becomes clear that treachery may happen in the most unlikely of circumstances. The path ahead is unknown, and Yandy's adventure is far from over. Will she be able to get past this unfathomable trauma, or will everything she has worked for be destroyed by the mysteries of her past? Tasha's actions have changed not only Yandy's life, but also her own, and Dee is left to cope with the ultimate betrayal from someone he trusted when the family is divided up with men. How? The Yandy narrative is only beginning its next chapter. For more fascinating updates on this developing story, stay tuned. This narrative is far from done, as Yandy's life is in jeopardy, and the truth about Tasha's sinister intentions is revealed. The shocking betrayal, the tragic crash, and the family division are only the beginning. Will she have to deal with the fallout from her choices? Do you believe that envy was the only driving force behind Tasha's actions? Or is there more to her narrative than meets the eye? Intensifies, please share your thoughts about Tasha's behavior. Was her decision truly motivated by envy, or was there a deeper factor at play? How will Yandy's marriage to M be affected if she survives this tragedy? In your opinion, please consider using the comments section below to express your ideas, hypotheses, and queries. We like hearing from you. To make sure you don't miss any updates on this wonderful news, please click the bell button if you're as shocked as we are. Keep checking back, as we're always available to. We promise that you won't want to miss the upcoming chapter, so we'll keep you informed on all the drama you desire.